If you're trying to get your money right, this episode is for you.
There was a Trinity Radio episode.
Because you guys preach stuff that is like literally unrecognizable to an ancient African.
You know what I'm saying? It's urban apologetics. You know what I'm saying? I got to show them like they did with the gospel.
What up, y'all? It's your hometown hero, the real Adam Coleman. Y'all know what it is, man. Tru-ID Apologetics. And we here one more again, man. We here one more again, switching it up a little bit. You know, a lot of times we deal with information with respect to the biblical worldview, defending and whatnot. But what we do here is more than just trying to convince people of the truth of Christian worldview, but actually seeing how it applies to everyday life. I'm saying a little nugget real quick, but when it comes to philosophy, one of the things that you test a worldview by in terms is its livability. You know, so we want to see how does the biblical worldview apply to real life. And so what better way to talk about real life than dealing with money? Because it gets real, especially this time of the year. If you're one of those people like me that it is or has been broke or nearly broke, you know what I'm saying, then this is a very important conversation. No better person to have with me to talk about than my guy, Pastor Edward Robinson. How you feeling, bro?
Doing pretty good, man. I appreciate you having me on tonight, man. I'm just encouraged by your podcast, your ministry, and looking forward to having this conversation, Doc. It's the season for sure.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, man. So I got to put you out here, right? You know, so a couple months ago, you know, we were at the Grunke Seminary. We were doing some presentations there. And I don't even know if I told you this, you know, but obviously you were talking about finances and whatnot. And I was sitting off to the side, man. I'm like scribbling notes. I'm like, dang, that's good. You know what I mean? I need to make sure, you know, I'm doing this. I'm not doing that. So I had my little cheat sheet, you know what I'm saying, by the time you were done, man. You know, if I put the information out there, I promise I'll give you credit. You know what I mean? But
I probably stole it from somebody. Hopefully I gave him some credit too. Yeah.
There you go, man. But yeah, man, you know, you spoke a lot about financial stewardship that day, and you know, you and I have had conversations about it as well, man. But before we really get into it, just tell the people a little bit about who you are and how you got into this whole mode of financial stewardship and that being a focus for you.
Man, that's a great question. I'm Edward Robinson. I was born and raised in Buffalo, New York. I got 4 little ones, 4 boys, all 7 and under, 6 and under, actually.
I'm right there with you, Doc. I got 5, so you know you only need one more, bro. You know, jump on in. The water's fine, man. You know,
you got me beat. So yeah, man. I spent. I mean, there's a long life story here, but essentially, I got into personal finance and finance in general during my time at Epiphany Camden, which was a church up in Camden, New Jersey, that I was a part of. During that time, I was fairly newly married, had just had my first son, so that really rocked my world. And one of the ways it rocked my world is it made me go back and look at my money and my spending and my bank account and figure out what's what. Because at that time of becoming a father for the first time, I was really when you start to think about legacy, and economics is a part of that legacy that you leave. And so that really made me dive into that, not to mention things going on in the church in terms of church planting and urban church planting. So we had some financial challenges there that really made me hone in. And so those are a couple of things that kind of got me going, man. Honestly, as I really began to think about this, as I really began to wonder, like, why is economics so pressing on my heart? Because, you know, my first love is theology and shepherding and pastoring and preaching and all that stuff.
For sure.
This became a second passion of mine. And I really take it back to my childhood.
Okay.
And I really take it back to watching my family struggle economically and how much that played a role in how we lived and the decisions that we made and the stresses and the anxieties and the depressions and so on and so forth. A lot of it had to do with our relationship with money. And so I watched what that did to my family. And I'm realizing now that I'm going to do something about it for my new family, in a sense.
Dang, bro. So I mean, already, man, I'm having to go off script in terms of the questions that we want to cover because you said
Yeah,
something, two things that really caught my attention. I want to get your thoughts on this. But when it comes to, I'm thinking about in the African American community. All right,
yeah, yeah,
what you said about how it really rocked your world when you had your first child, when you had your first son, how it forced you to look at finances a different way. You know what I'm saying? And I
yeah,
think back to my experience, when I
yeah,
became a father, like, I mean, I never really gave finances a serious thought until I was responsible for someone else. I'm saying to some extent, obviously, when I got married, but definitely it sunk in when we had our daughter. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
oh snap! Like, you know what? When I was single, I mean, if I was broke, I mean, I can get by on eating PB and J for like 3 days.
Right,
You know what I'm
right,
saying?
right,
You'll throw
right,
some
right, right.
beans in there. I mean, like,
Yeah,
I was good. But I was like, I really can't do that. You know what I'm saying, when you got a wife and a child, you know what I mean? That's a whole different ball game. And I'm a couple that with something else that you said about seeing, just kind of seeing your family, struggling with, like, my family, both of my parents made pretty good money. I mean, they both were
yeah,
government employees, pretty high on the GS scale. You know what I mean? They were doing
yeah,
well. Nevertheless, behind the scenes, there was some real struggles, mismanaging, credit, and I'm putting my parents out there, but things like that. I mean,
yeah,
they
yeah,
were
yeah,
strapped.
yeah,
I'm saying, making more money, but still strapped, and it just makes me think about how, I mean, my family, excuse me, my parents were that generation that came out of the civil rights movement. You know what I'm saying? They were the ones who
mm-hmm,
lived through the integrating of schools and all
yep,
those kind of things. So it's really a first generation of truly
yeah,
free people. I mean, and so
yeah,
we don't really know, going back to my first point, I think we just haven't had a financial awareness. You know what I'm saying? Like,
correct.
it's kind of, we get a late start in terms of really stewarding our money in a way that creates legacy and things like that. Whereas maybe other communities, that awareness, I feel like, may be present earlier on. You know what I mean? Because we're just
Yeah,
new to it. Like, we're new to having some money to do something with. You know what I mean?
yeah,
For the most
yeah.
part, now I'm speaking generally, but like, what do you think about that, man?
I think that it's hard to have financial awareness when you're in survival mode.
Right, right.
And so black people in this country have lived so long in survival mode that our awareness wasn't there because we're just trying to make it today.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And when you're just trying to make it today, that changes how you view money
mm-hmm.
because money is a tool to help me survive today.
Right.
It's not until you get out of survival mode that you realize that there can be long-term effects and benefits to money, compounding things, right? In terms of how money operates. But when you're just trying to survive, you can't think about the compound in the future. You can only think about what money is going to do for me and how I'm going to eat right now. So that has a
Man,
lot to do with the
that's
condition
facts.
of African people in this country. Yeah.
Yeah, that's facts, man. That's facts. That's good. And I feel like we've kind of, talked around it a little bit in terms of just the importance of financial stewardship. But
Hmm.
I respect you as a, as a theologian, looking at things from that lens. Like, can you bring us into that aspect of why financial stewardship is important, like the biblical aspect of it?
Yeah. So I have an undergrad in Bible and I have a master's in business. And so I consider myself an economic theologian in a sense because
Okay,
I've been
yeah.
trained in both spaces and places. And
Yeah,
so,
you need to coin
um,
that, bro. You know what I'm saying? You need the economic theologian. That's good. That's good.
yeah, I got that from another brother. So I can, I love it because what it does is it allows for me to look at the scriptures um, in a lens that God intended, and particularly from an economic perspective, as well as just the core theology and doctrines. But I think it's important because oftentimes people don't blend the two concepts. There's usually economists and there's theologians, but they tend to be separate in their understanding of how the world works. But the reality is that if I'm a good theologian, I understand that God runs economy.
Come on, bro. All right now.
So if God is sovereign over economy, then He has something to say about how we spend money and how money flows and goes in a world, right? And so when I began to try to understand finances, I grew up ignorant of money. The only thing they taught us how to do in the hood with money is how to get it. But once we got it,
Okay.
we were never taught what to do with it or how to make it last. We knew how to get it and we knew how to spend it. And so what I had to do was I knew I needed to figure this money thing out for the sake of my family first, but I wanted to do it God's way.
It's good. It's
And
good.
and so as the theologian, I go to the text and I'm saying, Lord, open up the treasures and the storehouses of wisdom that you have in this area of economics so that I can practice my economy in a way that you would see fit and that is honorable to you. So help me to submit my finances to my faith in a sense, and Lord, and be Lord over my money. And once I approached the text with that disposition and with that understanding, the Lord began to open up the floodgates of wisdom, in a sense, and show me a whole lot of things that I had never seen before. But I was standing on the scriptures trying to understand a new concept, but I wanted to do it God's way, as I said. Yeah. So,
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
No, man. Yeah, I need to glean from the floodgates, bro. Because your boy, I got a car in the shop right now. You know, I'm trying to figure out what to do. You know what I mean? So, I need to glean quickly. You know what I mean? But nah, man. So, I mean, that's fantastic. And I want to take it back to something you said a second ago. Just marrying theology and economy. I think that right there is the first step. I think so often, I'll just speak for myself. I know that I was that person who didn't see the connection between the two. And I know what it's like to be in survival mode. You know what I mean? It's like when you can't combine taking a wrong approach to economics in general, plus being under financial duress, then I think you easily develop bad habits. I'm saying you easily develop ways of engaging with finances that just really aren't conducive to building legacy. And I think that's something we can help people out, man. So help us out, bro. What do we do? Saying like, can you, if you give us like 2, 3, let's say 3 steps that people can employ to getting their money right, man, because you know what it is this time of year. Once Black Friday hit, from Black Friday to elevated electricity bills, from the lights being up in the tree and all that kind of stuff, like this right here is a real, obviously gifts and whatnot. This is a crunched time of year. So what can people do to be mindful of to get their money right, man?
I would say the first thing that me and my wife sat down to do is to figure out how we were going to get free. And the first step to getting free was for us to figure out how we were going to get out of debt. We had medical bills, credit card bills, student loans, so on and so forth. And so we were trying to figure out how, our heart was to figure out how we were going to be free enough to serve Christ freely. Catch that. I need to be free enough to really be a servant of Jesus, like freely be served Christ. So that if Christ calls me to do something, I can do it and I don't got to go check how much money I got, right? Or I have enough financial freedom to be obedient to the Lord in whatever direction he calls us in. So that was number one. So what I need people to do, first of all, before we get into the practical step-by-step, is to figure out, what are you actually trying to do here? Because along the way, on the road, there are going to be roadblocks, but I need you to know that there's a destination on your GPS. So what's your destination? Where are you trying to get to and why? So we ended up actually getting out of debt. We ended up paying over $110,000 off over the course of 5 years. It took us a little while. We were on one income, so on and so forth, but we did it, right? But we wanted to do that for several reasons. 1, the freedom of our faith. 2, the freedom of our family, right? In terms of, and then 3, the establishment of a new legacy, because we knew that one of the best things that we could give our kids, in addition to Jesus Christ, of course, in addition to a healthy marriage, is to be healthy ourselves financially, me and my wife. Because we realized if we weren't financially healthy, we were going to pass those bad habits off to our kids. And so first of all, I would say, So first of all, I would say, get a destination on your GPS. Me and my wife had to sit down and write out our marital mission statement. Yeah, we had to sit down.
Break that down, man. Yeah, because that's good. So and I'm not saying you have to necessarily share your mission statement, but like, what did that process look like? You know what I'm saying? Because what I hear what you're saying is, I think about just the oneness that marriage requires. I'm saying, like, the two shall become one, and have to, but bring me into that, man. Like, when you say that y'all sat down for a mission statement, what do you mean by that?
So one of the things you learn in business class is that every organization should have a vision. Well, the first organization is marriage.
Okay. All
That's
right.
the first organized institution, and everything flows out of there. Societies and everything functions and flows out of a marriage. That's why I'm not going to go too deep in that. But God established
All right.
marriage before He established any other institution. And so, if
Facts.
our
Facts.
marriage got to be directional, there has to be some direction there. And so, when me and my wife sat down, we said, here are the four things that we can accomplish together that we can't accomplish separately. Why did God put us together? Here are the four things we want to accomplish. And one of those things was to establish a financial legacy for our children, right?
Okay.
And so
Okay.
we sat down. Now here's why that's important. Because whenever you make a decision, the word decision means D is out of, incision means to cut. So if it's an incision, you cut into something. If it's a decision, you cut out of something. In other words, whenever you decide to do something, you're deciding to not do 100 other things.
Oh man. Okay, bro. All right. All right.
Right.
I'm walking with you. I'm walking with you. That's good. That's good. Yeah.
So it matters whenever you decide something, you know that it's going to cost you something.
Right.
So me and my wife decided, okay, this debt-free journey that we want to be on is going to cost us something. It cost us some vacations. It cost us some trinkets that we wanted along the way. But it was worth it to us in the end because we had a bigger picture, vision, and plan.
Mm-hmm.
So before I give people the practical, I want to give them that vision to attach yourself to something, because you're gonna go. It's gonna be a journey. You're gonna have to do some jogging. You're gonna sweat a little bit. Your muscles gonna get tight. All of that stuff is gonna happen, but it got to be worth it to you.
Right.
It got to be worth it to you.
And see, I got to come back on that for a couple of reasons, because, and I agree with everything you're saying. And it was wild is so my background, I come out of a word of faith background. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Thank God He delivered me from it. But I'm just saying, you know, I mean, I grew up listening to the Creflos, the Copelands, the Benny Hinn's, all of that. Too. You know what I mean? And what's wild is I feel like in a lot of ways, when God started correcting my theology, I'm like, oh no, man, like later for that. You know what I mean? Like it's you know, it's garbage to me. And most of it still is, you know what I'm saying? But when it comes to, I feel like tied up in their deception, there were a few nuggets of truth with respect to finances. You know what I'm saying? And so what you're saying is, like, when I hear you say like, oh man, I want to be free enough so I can serve Christ freely, like it takes me back to that sounds like something Creflo would say back in the day. I recall him saying things like that. You know what I'm saying, but it's taken me a while to be able to say, you know what, actually that is true. That's facts. Like, I'm old enough and I got enough debt and enough bills to realize, you know what, that's true. You know what I mean? It's just all the other things that would come along with it. You know, so that became problematic. But
so what happened is because I'm with you, bro. I grew up similar, word of faith, so on and so forth. What happens is we allow them to hijack our economics.
Yes. Right.
And what I had to make the conscious decision to say, nah, there's something here biblically. There is a such thing as a kingdom economic. Now, they may have taken it to an extreme, right? But that doesn't mean that God didn't say anything about how we should function and flow as Bible-believing Christians.
Right.
So I had to stop my brain from avoiding that subject because of all of the deception that I experienced in that movement.
Absolutely. And man, I'm being real with you, man. Like, even on a personal level, I'm just throwing myself. I mean, people who watch my show, they know that I lost my father a couple of years ago. You know what I mean? And it kind of launched me into. No, thank you, appreciate that. You know, but it just kind of launched me on a path of really exploring like what it means for God to be my father. You know what I mean? And one thing I realized is I think I got to the point where it's like I wasn't even hardly praying because I was so anti word of faith. I was no longer seeking after God as being my father, but scripturally, I mean, if you look at Matthew 6, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's evident that God really does want to care for you. Like, he really does want to provide for you. And he has a means and he has wisdom in his word in terms of how he can go about doing that. But I had gone so far to the extreme of trying not to fall back into errant theology that I missed, you know what I'm saying, exactly what you're talking about, those truths that had been hijacked, you know, and then distorted. But, you know, now I'm in a place where I kind of have to reclaim those things. I mean, but that's a very
we got to
reclaim
them. Even the word reclaim sounds like word of faith word. But we got to reclaim.
Right.
But we have to reclaim it, because if not, it's hurting us to not apply these truths to our lives. Regardless of who's misused them and abused them, they're still true, right? There's still elements of truth. So I want to get back to your question, because we
sure, please.
But number one, develop a vision. for your life. Develop some sense of where you want to get to, because it's going to cost you something to get there, but it got to be worth it to you. So that's number one. Number two, I would tell people to focus on getting out of debt. It's a big piece. It's a big piece. Now you need to have some savings, right?
Right.
A thousand, maybe a couple thousand, depending on your lifestyle, how many kids you got, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So if you can save a couple $1,000s when this tax return hit, then that's great. Just to keep the anxiety at bay.
Yeah, that's facts.
Really, that's really all that it is.
Right.
But after that, really go hard and sit down and figure out. And I put it on an Excel spreadsheet so I can show my wife we're not crazy. These numbers are real and they work, right? And so I put it on an Excel spreadsheet for the both of us. And I sat down and realized, okay, I got this bill, this, that, and I put it all out there. And there are these, you can Google this, it's called a debt snowball calculator, where you can put all of your debts in the calculator with their interest rates, and you can figure out how long it may take you to pay it off based on how much income you got and how much you can pay per month. That sounds it sounds disconnected from faith, but it's not. Because at the end of the day, we were trying to figure out, once again, how we were going to be free enough to serve Christ freely. What we realized was, see, this is what people don't talk about enough, in my opinion, is how much money impacts behavior.
Okay, break that down. Yeah.
So when you're stressed out, and every time you turn around, things are coming up. What you're doing is you're living to survive, not necessarily to obey.
Got you. Mm-hmm.
Right? And so when you're living in this survival mode, you're in a state of being where money dictates where you go, what you do, how long you stay, where all of that is dictated by money, whether you're realizing it or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's what as a kid, I witnessed that in my house. I witnessed how money was impacting emotions and behavior, and how much time could get spent over here, and how much we had to rush over here, and how much we could live over here, but couldn't. Like, it was all dictated by the struggle ministry.
Right. Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is that we gotta get off the struggle bus long enough to dream.
That's good,
and
man. Right.
Yeah. And so debt becomes a part of that, because you walk around with your debt subconsciously. You know it.
It's definitely true. Yeah. I know about it. Right.
So that dictates what jobs you take, where you move, where you send your kids to school, like all of these different. And let's not talk about marriage.
Man.
Let's not talk about how much. Let's not, like, we can talk about how much stress money puts on marriage. Just money.
Yeah.
There's other stresses. Don't get me wrong. It's not the only one.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But there's a lot of stresses that come from money that's put on marriage. We can talk about how much a wife feels like she compares herself to other women in the church or at work or whatever the case may be. What she got and what she don't got compared to what other ladies. Like, a lot. This stuff happens.
You talking, Doc? You talking?
So
it's real.
We have to stop pretending that money is not causing us any issues. Just because you understand what I'm saying? It's almost as if diabetes is running through our neighborhood and nobody wants to study sugar.
Facts. That's fact. Just the fear alone, man. Like, I mean, to your point, like, I know, just as a man trying to be, that provider and so on and so forth. I mean, just the fear, you know what I'm saying, of like, oh man, if just these three things here happen, man, we out back. Just that weighing on you. That's God doesn't want you to live that way, man. That's not the life of shalom that He designed us to live, bro.
It's not. And there's a couple of ways. There's a few ways to get out of that. I mean, you can completely ignore it and all of that. But what I want for people is to be empowered.
Right.
And so what happens is, bro, like I even struggle saying some of these things now, because I do come from that word of faith background.
Right,
You know what I'm
right,
saying?
right. Yeah,
But the
yeah,
truth
yeah.
of the matter is, man, I couldn't get away from it. And
Mm,
and as an urban minister in particular, I couldn't get away from how much it was impacting my people.
gosh, man. Jeez. That's
And so
facts, bro.
as much as I thought I could just go in and teach them a class of just raw theology, I realized some of them weren't never going to show up because they weren't in an economic position to have freedom of time.
Wow. Right. They can't even come to the Bible study.
They can't come.
Right. Right.
So not only do we have a primary theological spiritual problem. Don't never misunderstand that.
Without question, yeah, for
But
sure. Yeah.
but the way that works out is it manifests itself economically as well. So for example, in Proverbs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Proverbs says that the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. That's just
That's what it
facts.
says. That's facts. Right. Right.
It's
Period.
just facts. And so so then Matthew 6 says that you can't serve God and money. Well, how not when I'm the borrower?
Right. That's right.
Right?
How can you not? Right. Right. Right.
How not? And so what we have is we don't just got a money problem, we got a theological problem.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When that
Right.
money is mastering you and dictating to you more than Christ is,
Mm-hmm.
my whole ministry, bro, is to be the Harriet Tubman of finances.
All right, bro. All right, now that's what I'm
That's
talking
it.
about. Yes,
That's
sir.
it.
Yes, sir.
To set
Right, right.
Negroes free.
That's right. I'm with it.
So that we can express our freedom in our service to our Lord Jesus Christ. That's it. That's all I want.
That's
That's
facts.
all I want.
That's facts. Yeah, that's dope.
And so that got developed during my time. So anyway, saving up a couple thousand. I would say no more than two should be good, depending on your life circumstances.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Setting out the vision, saving some money, and putting a plan together to dig out of debt.
Gotcha.
You can literally Google debt snowball calculator and pull that up. And so I think if people start there, if they're not there already, if they could just start with that mentality and start with those simple couple of steps, then they're on their way. Now there are levels to this.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right? There are levels to this. We can go way beyond those three levels, but I'll just start with those three.
No, that's good, man. I mean, because I think that one thing I learned is that that's where most people are. I'm saying that's where I am, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still, I've come a long way. My family's come a long way. We're not where we used to be, but just still trying to wrap my mind around, like, what does it look like to live a legacy kind of life, as opposed to like what you describe as being in that survival mode. Because let's say, for example, if you don't have that, that $2,000 set aside, you know what I mean, man, that car alone, I mean, you're gonna have a busted tire. You're gonna have, that alternator that needs to be fixed. You know what I'm saying, if you're a homeowner, you're gonna have something's gonna break. You know what I mean?
Yes,
somewhere throughout the year, something's gonna break. And if you look at your monthly financial, like, just assuming that you have a monthly budget, but I'll put it this way: your monthly income, because maybe you don't even have a budget, so laid out. But if you know how much you got coming in, and roughly speaking, you think you can make ends meet, and then one of those things hits, and you don't have any money set along, now you got to draw out of your monthly income to address this issue right here. You know what I'm saying? And already, many of us, would be out back. Either that, or you've got to put it on a credit card, and now you got, more debt to contend with. You know what I mean? So just those simple steps, man. I realize, I think for most folks, sometimes it's hard to see the tangible benefit when you got, money just sitting around and you thinking like, oh man, I could put that over here, I could put that over there. But no, like, just that little nugget right there. Peace of mind,
just
man.
peace of mind.
Peace of mind.
That's all it is. So, and let me give you the discipline necessary to do those first couple of things I told you.
Yeah.
Remember I said, one, set the vision. Number two, save a couple thousand. Number three, go ahead and set a plan for debt freedom. Right. Let me give you a couple of disciplines that are necessary. The first discipline is to be humble. That might not sound like much.
I need you to break that down. Yeah.
That might not sound like much, but it's a whole lot. Me and my wife, for example, when we were getting out of debt, one of the biggest things we struggled with was not trying to keep up with everybody else around us.
That's real.
To have the humility to not want to try to impress somebody else with the expression of our money, right?
Mm-hmm,
And let me talk to our people for a second too.
Please do, please. Yeah.
We wear our money.
Right, like literally.
Literally.
Right. Right.
That's why jewelry and clothing and sneakers and all of this is such a big thing in the Black community. And that's why we're such big consumers. It's because we have a dearth of identity.
Talk about
And so
it, man.
what we're trying to fight for is social esteem and self-esteem in society, if you will. And so we wear our money to prove that we're something that we're not. Now, some people want to look rich. I actually want to be rich.
Hey, man, I know that's right.
Some people want to.
That's right.
So in Proverbs, this is what it says: that there is a poor man who pretends to be rich, and there is a rich man who pretends to be poor. Now, Proverbs breaks everything down in wise and fool. So you can take a guess on who's the wise person and who's the fool. I'll repeat that proverb. There is one who pretends to be poor and is rich, and there's one who pretends to be rich and yet is poor. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And so what we have in our communities is a pretend to be rich.
Right.
So it takes humility to no longer have to try to gain social esteem by spending money on things that people can see. So once, if you're bottom line struggling through poverty, then you're spending your money to survive. If you just got a little few dollars, then you're spending your money on liabilities. That's clothes, shoes, jewelry, cars you don't need, and so on and so forth.
Hey, you gotta talk about that phone too, Doc. Because Cassie, man, shoot, that iPhone 13 and next year it'll be a 14 and it's the same as the 13, and you know what I mean? But you're paying a car payment for that joint. Yeah.
Listen, when that came up, I didn't buy it. I still got the same phone I had.
Right.
And listen, here's what's funny. Once you start seeing the world through the lenses of an economics, what you start to realize is that the people, oftentimes that you covet their stuff, you're coveting their credit. In other words, they bought that on credit most of the time.
Right.
And so what you're coveting is their debt bill.
Dang, that's deep. That's deep.
I'm done with that.
I don't want it. Yeah, I don't want that. No,
I'm done with that. Because I want something more. Not that I want to be better than them per se, but I want something more for myself and my family. I actually want to be free, not just look free.
Want to be free,
so,
right?
Like I said, those of us that are struggling through poverty, we spend money to survive. Those of us that just got a few dollars, we spend money to look good. But the wealthy, you know what they spend money on? They spend money on income. Now, what do I mean by they spend money on income? They spend money on assets, things that are going to continue to generate more money. They buy businesses, they buy stocks, they buy like all of these particular things that are going to continue to generate income for them, because what they realize is that your money can work harder for you than you can work for it.
Come on, bro. Come on.
When you send your money out to make money, it makes more money than your time at work. So those are on the lower end of economics. We're all trading our time for money. You go to work, they pay you a check.
Right.
On the higher end of economics, they trade their money in for more money. Anyway, that's
good. No, I was gonna let you roll with it. I mean, that's good, man.
There's levels to this. On the base level, I just want people to get a mentality to have the discipline to be humble, so that you can get to that place.
No, that's good. That's good.
So humility matters. You not comparing yourself and coveting what other people matters. You got to be humble enough to not have to be impressive. So that's the second discipline outside of humility is the discipline to actually sit down and do your budget on a regular basis.
That's what I need to work on. Yeah, that's real. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's what I do. If you get a paycheck, I'll tell you, don't do a monthly budget. Do a paycheck budget.
That's good. That's good.
The difference between the two is when you get paid, let's say you get paid every 2 weeks, you know exactly what to do with your check. I mean, down to the T. So when my check comes in, I know exactly where the money is going. Exactly. You see what I'm saying? Let's say you get a check
That's
for
good. That's
$1,000
good.
every 2
Right.
weeks. I'm just throwing a number out there.
Right.
You know exactly which 3, 4, 5, 6 bills you're gonna pay with that $1,000 check. So instead of having a theoretical monthly budget, you have a defined, I'm going to pay this with this money.
I'm gonna tell you why that's important too, bro. And it's so crazy you should bring this up. And this is definitely something I'm gonna adopt. But so I started. I have a monthly budget. Put it on an Excel sheet and all this and that, right? But I wasn't keeping track of when this bill comes out, the automatic payment versus that bill versus you think about like Netflix, for example, it's like $10.99.
Right.
But if you got like 5, 6 different services, that's $60. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I'm not thinking like, oh man, you know what? I'm thinking I have this amount of money on the back end of the month. But really, when I look at when my money is going, where it's going, I have no clue. You know what I'm saying? So I'm getting tagged up. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's so crucial, man. Not just having the monthly budget, but getting it down to that check. For every check, where is that money going, man?
Yeah, because if you don't tell your money where to go, you'll wonder where it went.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
that's facts.
Yeah,
Right.
They say money talk. All they say to most of us is bye-bye.
Peace. I'm out. Right.
I'm out. Right.
Right.
So what happens is when you do that paycheck budget, and what I did was I took most of my bills off of auto pay.
Okay. Got you. All right.
Because unless it was a smaller bill, because what happens is, let's say I got a bill for $150 and I got it on auto pay, but I don't necessarily, I forget when that is going to be deducted out of my checking account, then I'm ended up with bank fees.
Man, bank fees, bro. Yeah.
Them bank fees. So let me give y'all the money when I got it. When I get it, this is when I pay you.
Right.
So that was one of the things I did. Now the only bills I got, I'm gonna be honest, on auto pay are smaller bills that I know a Netflix bill. I ain't tripping.
Not worried about it. Right.
I ain't worried about it because I know I at least can keep enough money in there to take care of that. But I wanted to be able to pay my bills on the day I get my check, and for me to know exactly how much money I got left because I was putting that money toward my debt.
Got you.
So there's an exactness there.
Right.
That's a part of the discipline. So I talk about humility and budgeting as the undercurrent disciplines to get you to those 3 points I mentioned earlier, which is build the vision, save a couple $1,000s, and then have a debt-free plan.
That's excellent, man. That's excellent. So now I'm gonna be a little selfish, man. I'm gonna ask a question. Bro, this is for me. You know what I'm saying? So, like when do you feel like when do you feel you're at that place where you can move from well, let me ask you this. Like if somebody's interested in starting a business, I'm saying if you're interested in acquiring some assets where you want to make those kind of moves, at what point is it reasonable to do so? Like, do you need to wait until you're entirely out of debt before you start making those moves? Like, I think, for example, I always forget this guy's name, Dave Ramsey, I think. You know what I'm saying? Like he's a proponent of that. Like, don't do anything business-wise, as I understand him, until you get all the way out of debt. Are you of that mindset, or do you feel like there's other points where you can say, okay, now you can start to make that shift? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think getting out of debt should be primary because it's about building the habit. Because if the habit of personal debt will bleed into the habit of corporate debt. Now, I'm not against all debt, and I don't think debt is sin, but it's almost always unwise. Almost.
Okay, got you.
Because of what it does to you spiritually. Now, I'm speaking as a pastor, right? If you talk to a corporate person with no Bible, they're going to tell you something different. But biblically and spiritually, remember, Israel was the only system we've seen that operated exactly according to God's economy or it actually didn't, but he established some economic laws.
Sure, right.
One of the economic laws for the economy of Israel was a consistent, refreshing, debt-free system.
Right.
So it was never God's intention to have people in a bunch of debt.
Yeah, because that year of Jubilee, you're right. Yeah, I mean that clears it all out, right?
Right? That clears it all out. And that was every
7
49 years. But every 7 years, even before you got to Jubilee, there was a debt reset.
Right.
If you were in debt slavery, which that was a debt slavery, not chattel slavery back then in Egypt.
I got you.
But every 7 years, you got out of your debt slavery. And then every 49 years, everything was wiped completely clean. And so what I'm saying is that as a part of the kingdom economy, debt is just not a great thing.
Yeah, that's good.
From God's perspective.
Right.
Okay. So what I want people to do is to prioritize their debt plan, to build the debt-free habit. And as a part of their worship to what Christ would have, I believe economically what Christ would have them to push towards, so that they can have the freedom of conscience, freedom of spirit, freedom of mind to function and to flow. I'm telling you, I felt different after I got out of debt. It took a long time, I'm not gonna lie. But,
yeah.
But it freed up my mind, Doc.
Right.
It's kind of like losing weight. I'm trying to work on that too now. Right?
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
You feel better. Like,
you feel better. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Just feel better. So I would say, now if you have some extras, like you working your plan and you working your debt free and you putting towards it regularly, and you still want to do some extra hustle, I don't got no problem with extra hustle. I love business. That's a whole nother podcast for another day.
Hey,
right? To build up yourself, to invest in yourself, and so on and so forth, and build up a business. I love that. But I don't want you to do it at the expense of building a habit toward debt freedom, because whatever you're comfortable with when you got a little bit, you're going to be comfortable with when you got a lot. Jesus said in the word that he who is faithful over a little cannot be ruled over much. So if you're faithful over a little, you'll be faithful over a lot.
Right.
But if you are practicing some habits that are not so good with just a little bit, with that 10,000, what you gonna think you do with 100,000? Same thing, because you got the same mind.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's really good, man. That's really good. And I think that, on a practical level, again, I think it's so easy to get sucked into, oh man, I don't have it, ain't got enough to do this or got enough to do that. But it really does start up here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think people feel like it starts with, all right, now that I got enough money to do something, now I can do something. Like, no, before you get the money in, right? It's just like these dudes, who get drafted to the NBA or the NFL or whatever. Like,
yes, sir.
I mean, if you're a young man and you don't know what to do with any money, you're gonna be broken in the NFL. There's broke people in the NFL right now,
Absolutely.
in the NBA right now, because here they don't really know what to do. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so,
like my sister said, more money don't fix a money problem.
Right.
More money don't fix a money problem, because a money problem starts with human behavior. Now, there are circumstances, don't get me wrong.
Right, for
There's
sure.
circumstances that can get someone into poverty. But if you're of able mind and able body, the thing that perpetuates your poverty is your behavior. Right? So don't get me, listen, I grew up I know there are circumstances, there's racism, there's systems, like all of that is true.
Right.
Then how then shall you live becomes the responsibility you have to either perpetuate that poverty or to work yourself out of it.
And we can have a whole other conversation about reparations at this point, right? Because
we could.
Some of my friends, I mean, I love them, you know what I mean, but they think I'm being unnecessarily inflammatory when I say that if everybody in the Black community got X amount check tomorrow for reparations, we gonna be broke in 6 months. You know what I'm saying? We gonna be broke. You know what I mean? Correct. Because the reality is, it's not just about the money. Is if you don't have the patience, the skill set, the know-how, then what you're going to do with the money, you're going to spend it frivolously. That's just the nature of it. And now we can talk about why we're in that condition. We can talk about how our education systems have been, there's been degradation there. We can talk about, disenfranchisement, all those things. I'm with that. But at the same time, if we don't couple, that financial come up with an educational come up, then ultimately it's not sustainable. That's the issue. You know what I'm saying? It's not sustainable. It may feel good for a while. But so even on an individual level, I feel like what you're saying is that there has to be, you have to educate yourself, And I'm gonna just be real with you, man. Like we talked about pride. I think for me, like, two aspects of pride. First of all, I had to learn that actually I'm not the provider of my home. I'm saying, like, I know that that's thrown around, in society, and you come up as a man like, okay, yeah, I gotta be the breadwinner, I'm the provider. No, I'm the one that stewards the provision. You know what I'm saying? I got to be disciplined, I got to be diligent, and I steward the provision. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, God is still the provider, but I had to humble myself in that way. Number one. Number two, I had to realize, like, and you know how it is. I mean, especially with men. Sometimes we don't want to, ask for help. Yeah, I mean, it's like I got bad habits. I'm not stewarding things well, but I don't want to go to this man over here and open up my bank account and be like, man, it's a mess, and here it is. Like, that's hard, bro.
It's hard.
And I had to learn the hard way, man. I have a brother. Shout out to my guy Steve Stack. I've had him on the channel as well, talking about this very same thing. And I had to just be like, man, this is where my money's at, bro. I'm here's where it is. But it's so freeing, man. I'm in a much better place, than we were. But for me, the first step was I had to humble myself and realize I can't keep this in the dark. I'm saying I have to take, my poor financial management and put it on display so I can get some help, man. But that's a very real thing, bro. That's a very real thing.
It's real. Yeah, it's real. And starting from the bottom financially and working your way up, it's a humility thing, because we've been taught to fake it till we make it.
Yeah, we have, man. And I mean, I had to come to my boy and be like, yo, man, my credit score is 540, dog. Or 580. You know what I mean? That was a couple years ago. Then, 6 months ago, I'm not ashamed to say it, I was able to text him like, hey, man, took a screenshot, 780. You know what I mean? Boom. We in here.
That's
you know
good.
what I mean? And for him,
That's
it was
good.
like, man, like, yo, like that's where it's at. You know what I mean? But it started with just, I had to acknowledge the 580 first. You know what I'm saying? I had to put myself out there first in order to get to, where we are now, man. So,
and let me even take it a step further. What you have to do is to take responsibility for the 580.
Yes.
Right. Like, I had to take responsibility for the fact that I was 6 figures in debt. I had to take responsibility.
Right.
Listen, there's only so much I can blame on a white man or a racist system. Like I know, like, don't mishear me, people. Like, don't. But at a certain point, you gotta take management over what you can control.
Right.
Over what you can control. And if you start to do that, you'll realize, hey, Adam, it was your fault the snake was in the garden.
Mm-hmm.
God told you to watch it and to keep it. What he doing there talking to your wife?
Oh, snap. All right, bro. He shouldn't have been in there in the first place, right?
He shouldn't have been there, Doc. So don't, when everything goes awry, don't blame God. The woman you gave me, are you serious?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But take responsibility and control what you can control.
No, I mean, man, that's so real.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, man. I could do 5 shows on systemic injustice throughout America's history, specifically toward African Americans. I mean, there's more than there's a wealth of historical facts around it. We could do that
for sure.
But at the end of the day, when I was sitting there at that timeshare desk, and they was like, "Look, you can buy this timeshare," you know what I'm saying, and I knew it didn't fit my budget, and I got it anyway. White man ain't had nothing to do with that, bro. Like, I'm saying, like that was my bad decision. You know what I mean? I'm keeping it all the way above. So at the end of the day, to your point, there, to whatever extent you're responsible, you got to take responsibility, or else nothing will change. Right.
Yeah, for whatever you can. And then what we have to do is to be able to give. I need to talk about this. I know we short on time.
No. Hey,
I got to talk about this.
Do your thing, right?
When I said I was trying to leave a financial legacy for my children, one of the things that's hard about coming out of the struggle is that you want to give your children what you never had, and that usually means material things. And so the guilt of parenting and the correction that you're trying to do of your parents or parent, in my case, we are emotionally charged to try to correct our parents and our parenting. You got to catch that.
Man, that's tough.
Most people don't catch it. They
tough.
Don't even realize it. That their parenting is an expression of their correction of their parents. So they're trying to do what their parents didn't do. Right? And if you come from the struggle, one of the things that you're trying to do is to give your kids things you have never gotten. And so what we've seen now
Right.
is a generation that's growing up entitled because we gave them too much without teaching them how to work for it.
Man, come on, bro. Come on, bro. Right.
Okay.
Right.
So then what happens is that now we're raising a generation that still has not learned the value of productivity, and we've perpetuated consumerism, so they're gonna end up broke no matter how much money they got to start with.
Man, that's facts. That's facts, bro. That's facts.
So when my sons ask me for something, you know what I tell them? Which business you gonna start to get that? Okay? Right? I just got done. I just left home not too long ago. I have a kid entrepreneurship class. My son is 6. My oldest is 6. But he know about flipping lemonade, selling cupcakes. Like he
I know
just
that's
got
right.
done,
Right.
right? He just got done presenting a business proposal, not for real, it's just a play thing, right? For now.
Right.
But he just got done saying, Dad, I want to build houses, and then you and his other brother, his name is Ariel, his name is Emmanuel, you and Ariel can sell the houses, I'll build the houses. So we had a whole like business expose at the house. What am I doing? I'm teaching these boys how to be productive because I'm trying to connect them back to their kingdom calling, because Adam was intended to co-create or continue with the management of creation.
Let's go. Right.
So what I want is these boys to be able to be productive and to build something and to do it with a Christ-centered mindset, but to be Christ-centered producers, not simply consumers.
And something just hit me. I don't know. I never thought about it this way, but I really do. And tell me what you think about this. First of all, that's phenomenal. You know what I mean? Of keying your children in on that entrepreneurship at such a young age. But something that just hit me is just poverty, particularly sustained poverty, really is antithetical to the Imago Dei. You know what I'm saying?
It is.
It really is antithetical to the Imago Dei. The image of God, we were created to be stewards over the earth. You know what I'm saying? Not subject to it, right? It's supposed to be subject to us. You know what I'm saying? And I think that when we have habits and mentalities that make it such that we are subservient to our finances as opposed to the other way around, that just flat out is antithetical to being made in the image of God. You know what I'm saying?
Correct. And that's the entire philosophy or theology of economics. Which you just hit the nail on the head. We were never created to be subservient to any economy. We were supposed to be free people. Right. So when you get into the new, so here's the let me give you the quick synopsis of the prosperity gospel. It's the kingdom of God realized too soon. But what they got right was there is a kingdom economy. There's a way this thing's supposed to work, and it's not working that way. And we're declaring and decreeing that this thing has changed since Christ died. But they're almost right. They're just wrong on the time. They got the clock wrong.
Right.
Everything that they say is going to happen in the new kingdom.
Right.
Their entire economy, there's not going to be no poverty and debt and slavery in the new kingdom.
Of course, right.
There ain't going to be no sickness. They right. They just got the clock wrong.
Bro, we had to do a whole show just on that alone, because that's a bomb right there, man. That's a bomb right there. But you're right though. Yeah.
But Christ has called us to, because Paul disciple people in economics. If you don't believe me, go to First Thessalonians.
Okay.
He was trying to tell them people, 1 Thessalonians 4:11, man, how to live quietly, work with their hands, and be dependent on no one.
That's what he said, Doc. That's what he said.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
So we when we go into Acts chapter 2, and we see that Ananias and Sapphira died because they lied about how much money they were giving to the poor, it's because God was trying to tell them, I don't want you to operate like the temple, because the temple was a bank. And when Jesus sat across from the bank, he saw a woman in the book of Luke, chapter 21, giving her last few pennies. They were taking money from a poor woman. So when the new kingdom gets established via the church, the fact that these people are lying about how much money they're giving to the poor is God saying, we're not going to operate according to that lying, deceiving economy here.
Come on, bro. You take it serious, right?
We take it serious because money is an expression of one's heart. Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
That's what it says, right?
So if you're lying to the church about giving to the poor, then you got a lying heart, and your heart to the poor is not right. And I don't want repeated in my church what I saw happen in the temple.
Come on, bro.
So there is a theology to this economics.
Right.
And the way it's supposed to happen and work in and through the church has always been an economy of generosity and of care for the poor, and of worship ultimately toward God.
Amen, man. Well, hey, man, that's a good way to camp out, bro. I mean, you said a mouthful. You know, I'm going to bring you back without question, dog. We got there's 5 more conversations already I can see we need to have. You know what I'm saying? But before we do, man, just let people know. Now you know I gotta get you. You know what I'm saying? You know I gotta get you. You know, on this live first of all.
Yes, sir.
You know this book need to come out, bro. You just gave us an hour.
Doc.
Come on, man. You know what I'm saying? You know you need to come through with that book, Doc.
Man, this must be confirmation. Let me be Pentecostal for a second. This must
be
confirmation.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, let me, because I amen. I got you. Amen.
That's all. Yeah. That's all I need. If you give me the amen, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? So you already got 1 copy sold. Whenever it drop, I'm gonna copy it. So you already know that's 1 down in the books. You know what I'm saying? But we gonna get back to that, man. But in the meantime, man, just share with the people, any resources you're aware of that'd be helpful to them, and then we'll ride on out.
Yeah, so I'll give you 2 things. Y'all can Google Lynn Richardson, New Wealth University. That is my actual blood sister. I mean, she is killing it on helping people with finances. So me and her blood it must be in the DNA.
It must be.
So So she has an entire online university for everything regarding your money. So go ahead, check her out. Lynn Richardson, Lynn Richardson, New Wealth University. So there's that. And then I would also suggest people to check out Crown Financial Ministries. So Crown Financial, those would be the 2. I listen to my big sister, and I listen to Crown. And Crown has a more robust theology of economics. And my sister's killing it on all the practicality, from everything from personal finance to business taxes. I mean, all the way up to how to buy a home. So check us out there too.
Man, that's excellent, man. Matter of fact, what I'm going to do is I'll put that information in the description of this video. So if you're interested in Lynn Richardson and also Crown, man, that'll be right there in the description of this video, so people can check that out for sure. Brother, I just want to say thank you for coming through, dropping these gems, man. I mean, it definitely was powerful. And any last words? Anything you want to leave out with? Anything you want to end up?
No, last thing I'll say is, I said no, and then I'm gonna say something.
Last thing I'll say is this.
Get free so you can serve Christ freely. That's it. That's my heart's desire for you. It's for you to remove the shackles and the chains of financial slavery, so that you can hear from the Lord and follow Him freely. That's it. Hey,
man, that's excellent. Well, y'all know what it is, man. We always like to bring content, substance. My brother, Pastor Evan Robertson, definitely did that. Again, this is more than just about arguing with people. When it comes to apologetics, it's more than just about arguing with folk over whether or not Christianity is true. We need to really have an in-depth understanding of not only that is true, but just the livability, man. We got to live it out. You know what I'm saying? This is real stuff. I'm saying your life can be an apologetic. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna take it back to the word of faith days. I mean, the reality is if you're out here doing well for yourself, I'm saying if you're doing well financially and you're pointing people to Christ, I'm saying with that can be a witness. That's not something, that concept is not something that the word of faith folks have a monopoly on. I'm saying you really can be a billboard for God's goodness. And that in and of itself is apologetics. So y'all know what it is, man. Definitely hit that like button, subscribe, check us out at Tru-ID, apologetics.com. And, as we always say, man, love God, love people, and take care of the things that God blesses you with, including your money. You know what I mean? We'll see y'all next time, man. Peace.
Grace and peace.